So let's go. The Malian army has just deployed more than 100 soldiers to the Dagdag airport in Kayes, in the first region, in order to strengthen the security of the population. Ladies and gentlemen, the citizens have requested for more deployment. Ladies and gentlemen, we are beginning to see, and this is what you get under a real democratic regime, just coming through the shining lights of a military leadership that has actually shown the discipline. They've actually shown, the core values of what you can get under a military system. It's about the quick response to the call of the civilians. It is about the respect for the citizens, because when did we just talk about the citizens calling for boots on the ground? They've just sent 100 men. Kayes, Nioro is not really that far from Bamako, and the Malians continue to show that, look, on every type of warfare system, they continue to show that they have the combat capability to neutralize every new development training that the Western oppressors have actually incorporated into this terrorists. Now we have a very, very aggressive response for the Malians today, because apart from this deployment into the Kayes Nioro region, I'm surprised by this information, because this is happening after the Malian government just took the case of Algerian security breach to the United Nations Security Council and to the ICC, formally applying, who knows what the resultant judgment will be, if Algeria will really have to pay for these drones. And I think this time around we are beginning to see changes, because the Algerians were very, very careful this time around. But don't forget, there is a big insurrection going on inside Algeria right now, and a lot of fighting is going on. A lot of Algerian troops are getting neutralized by these guys. We don't really want trouble in Africa, but I can't understand, because this thing just continue to spread. But don't forget, this insurrection inside Algeria, it has been going on for a while, but at a very latent level. But it has really, really blown up right now, and this is happening just after Algeria is trying to, do a sort of standoff with France. That, look, get out of this place. We want to change our even language from French to Arabic and English. And, I think France is just waging this war. And I think this is, it is better for Algeria to actually, ally with the true cause of freedom and sovereignty. You can't do it alone. You can't do it alone. And for Mauritania at the same time, you can't do it alone. It's just like what happened to Qatar. That Qatar and all of every other person supported Israel, right? When Iran was actually battling Israel to the ground. And, at the same, all of a sudden, everything, Iran was able to really, really negotiate that fight from a place of strength, in my own opinion. Because I think America and their proxy actually called for that ceasefire. Iran did not call for the ceasefire. Iran actually, ladies and gentlemen, that's a story for another day. But you can see that when Qatar is now being attacked, some people are actually stepping back, that how to support Israel, right? Now that they launch a very provocative assault on you, nobody is going to, come for your rescue. Everybody's just talking from the outside, right? There is no real support for Qatar right now, ladies and gentlemen. And now that we're seeing a similar situation in Algeria, you can see that Africans are not really, really responding in a sort of solidarity, like, oh, Algeria, nobody really, even me, I don't really care about all of that, but they should solve their own internal problem by themselves. Now we have a situation in Mali today where the Malian Bayraktar Akinci drone has just struck a van belonging to the terrorist group of the Azawadian FLA front in the Interbazas region. Ladies and gentlemen, according to the information we had, they said this is just 110 kilometers from Kidal, near the border with Algeria. They said it was border close. But ladies and gentlemen, the Malians actually have been surveilling this region. And I was surprised, because I was looking at the whole thing like, look, they just knocked down a Bayraktar drone. Who knows? Maybe there was an internal settlement. We never can tell, Maybe Algeria actually, because these are the regions where Algeria normally shoots their, their SAM system to knock off the Bayraktar Kinshi drone. But this, Mali actually gets into this territory right now. We never can tell what the plan of the Malians are. They actually surveyed the terrorists and they dropped a guided missile on these terrorists. Bow! And the next thing we heard, the terrorists were turned to coal. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm posting this on my Telegram. I know a lot of you have seen it. Maybe I shouldn't post it, but I will post it. They were tased. They were toasted. Man, I mean, that was a statement. In my own opinion, it was a statement that wherever you think is your safe haven, we have eyes in the sky. And we have that air power. I know a lot of people are going to be like, we got the fighter jets. You remember which they scrambled into the air, the SU Sukhoi Russian S-24 flanker to actually destroy some, to negotiate from a place of strength in Kayes, right? Now you have this, it was a massive destruction, right? The people were in shock. Actually, they think they are safe. But that is to tell you what the Malians could have even done or achieved if Africa was a unified bloc against the scourge of terrorism. The terrorists would have not had an hiding place. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a consequential period where even now, the FLA front will know that even the Algerian border close is not even safe for them again. And that is a very bold move from the Malian, right? In my own opinion, I do feel like maybe it was a bait or something that the Malian got that close, or maybe they had a counter surveillance or they had a backup surveillance to actually monitor their activity. Should in case there is a surface to air missile from Algeria, maybe they would have said, look, we actually got you this time, and clear evidence that you shot us in our territory. And that would have been a very, very consequential evidence, in my own opinion. But ladies and gentlemen, the objective was completed. It was a calculated move. And ladies and gentlemen, who knows? The terrorists never knew that Mali could actually track them to that region. Mali is a big territory, but it continues to show that even with the territorial size, they still have control over their territorial sovereignty. Can we say that about Nigeria? That is for the Nigerian people to answer the question, ladies and gentlemen. So, even in the midst of this whole chaos and this fight against terrorism and every other thing, do you know that Mali, in the last 18 months, has created over 105,000 jobs? Ladies and gentlemen, Captain Ibrahim Traore once said something, right? That the imperialists that continue to stay under the pretext of Africom, whatever comes, Savicom and all of that, that they are here for a reason, right? Not to even talk about the maintenance cost of having their bases in your country. To be honest, sometimes I think, who is giving hate to who, right? Captain Ibrahim Traore said, the more we build factories here, the more they shut down their factories there. Is it not manifesting in France, ladies and gentlemen? I don't want to be biased. I know a lot of independent journalists that are even credible. Now you're starting to see their true identity because they continue to wangle around the lies. They said the reason for the riots in France is because Emmanuel Macron, Prime Minister Francois Bayrou, said that, yeah, they will have to increase taxes and they will have to cut down spending and all of that. To me, I think the people of France have been, living a sort of lifestyle that some of them were born into, that's kind of made them feel it was their right to live that way. If their government, right, their ancestors whatsoever, has actually walked their way to the top, it could have been possible. But France overstayed their welcome. Do you know what I mean? After independence of those sovereign African countries, those that are truly sovereign, France should have been gone. We know that some are trying to posture that they are already sovereign. We've kicked out the French bases, but we know that they are still conniving with France, like Senegal. Senegal is bloody conniving. Shit. That is a story for another day. So a lot of jobs is getting created. We are having chaos. The economy is falling in Europe. Now, just imagine if Africa was still so very subservient and obedient and aligning to this hegemon, this unipolar hegemon. How do you think the Russia-Ukraine war would have turned out? They would have been donating billions and all of that. But now they are borrowing money. And a lot of people want to tell me it's because of the mismanagement of funds for their government. I think if the Russia-Ukraine war had never happened, a lot of things would have not happened really. But I do think that even if they had not donated money, you can see that their donation has now falling drastically. If they had not even donated money to Ukraine, I think it was only going to prolong the fall. Yeah, because do you know the resources they were getting? Oh, a lot of people don't understand. They were getting gold, they were getting uranium, they were getting a lot of other minerals. They had a first right to any mineral inside. Orano negotiated whatever he wants to negotiate. So, man, nah, it's over with. And I hope they understand why they really fell flat. And I think it's still gradual. It's a motion, right? By the time every franc of freak kick these boys out, goodness. The Russian president once said, and I quote, Vladimir Putin said that we might see a situation where an imperialist become economically lesser than one of the blocks it colonized. That he was talking directly about Niger at the time. But with what we are saying, in my own opinion right now, I think economically, the people of Burkina Faso, they are more stable. Economically, it depends on how you want to interpret it, than the people of France right now. If they are really comfortable, if they are really economically stable, they would. It doesn't matter what the currency is, right? I think if they are really stable over there, the whole burning of the buildings and everything, the chaos wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have happened. There was no point in it happening. Now you see jobs getting created in Mali. Now they have a solar plant in Mali. Mali has really done a lot of great things. But ladies and gentlemen, give us your opinion in the comment section below. This is where we draw the curtain for today. And then in the afternoon, because today is weekend, we are going to be bringing you fresh counter-terrorism operation news directly from the front line. We are still trying to vet some information, and by the time we have all our facts gathered all together, we're going to bring it to you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy 7200 signing out. Enough said, but before I go, I love you all. Much respect and a lot of salute to you, my lord.